Good morning. It's a day at the shop, getting ready to rain. Just a rainy day, and I've been bush hogging with this, and I thought I would show people why it's important to maintenance after bush hogging, especially with a brush cutter. You're basically I was cutting, 6, 7, 8-inch trees at times, mulching them up and stuff. So the biggest thing with it is it draws air in from the side. I got the cab up on the machine. It draws air in the sides here for cooling. It pulls it all in through here. So also it's got some vents on the sides here. So when you're bush hogging and there's a big cloud of material around you, just like that right there, it pulls it in around the filler necks. It pulls it in around any crack under the cab. It does all kinds of stuff. It gets all in under brackets. See like that stuff. I mean, you could just strike some match and set it on fire. You've got little piles of stuff like this where all the seals is and stuff, but when you look back in there, there's your regen and your emissions stuff. So you got all this fire tinder, I call it, pulling in all around that. See, look above it. It's kind of hard to get the best lighting, but you can see it's just a stack of stuff. And you could say, I need a forestry package on it with all the covers over the cylinders, and all that stuff, and that's probably true. But I probably bush hog 3 or 4 times a year, so I can bush hog. And then this was 3 days. It was about 20 some hours. Little sticks and pieces. We're going to take that cover off and 4 bolts. That's where your air conditioner and stuff is. We're going to take the belly pans off the bottom. But here's your radiator. You can see a little bit of stuff on it as far as where it pulls that dust through. But we're going to get rid of all that crap. Check your air filter, but see all this stuff? You got basically wood chips, just little pieces of kindling. And then down in here is a real spot. See that? That's right under your engine. There's little fuzzies where it's pulled it through the radiator a little bit. There's just stuff in every nook and cranny. There's your turbo. You get some of that sitting on that turbo, you might as well just hop out of the machine. And one thing I will say that I ain't got on this machine is I'm going to mount me a fire extinguisher. So worst comes to worst, I would be able to put the fire out. This was actually the first bush hogging job with this machine. I owned a 90 SVL 75, so we're gonna just take and clean this up. You just look all down in there. Now, my idea is first, take a shop vac while it's powdery. Take a shop vac and take care of it. That's my idea. So we'll check back in here in a minute. Get the boom up in the air. always put your safety lock. That's one of the bolts that threads down and keeps it on. You thread it back through. So it takes two of them. Here's their plates. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cover plates. And this is what you're looking at. When you raise the cab to wash, right up there's your fuel tank. The other side to the left would be your hydraulic tank, your pumps, and your engine going back through there. This is from front to back. So there's three covers underneath, and then them 2 kind of on the back where it slopes up. So it should allow me to flush through. You see how nasty it is. And we'll see how it goes. It's getting ready to rain, so I'm gonna get out there more. All right, got her cleaned up, greased. This thing here, actually, it's my tilt coupler. It's got grease fittings for pins, then that pivot joint and that pivot joint. So it's got 4 grease fittings. Maybe 5, I don't know. But I greased it and washed it. It's almost impossible to get everything off of it, but took these covers off. Under here, it protects it good, but there's still some stuff sucks in around it. So it's got a little crap on it still. But I drained the fuel bowl right here. Took all them belly pans off earlier. Blew the radiator out. Blew the air filter out. Anytime you bush hog, it's just gonna draw in all kinds of crap. Like in these vents here, it just pulls it. It pulled it in around this, all around that. These will just stay covered up with stuff. It was up under this when I took it off. But they're sealed pretty good. There wasn't a large amount of stuff in there, but I still got quite a bit. Floor's muddy where I got in and out, but I raised the cab. It was raining out, so I couldn't really film it, but I was going to show you guys something inside. If you own one of these Kubotas, they seem to always, people complains about these doors. I'm not saying they're perfect, I'm just saying they're handy. You know, I can raise it up and talk to my guy when I'm putting in gravel in a trench, or you know, doing something tedious. So you got these hand grips, and you pop it with your thumb and pop this side. Where's it at? Right here. Pop that side with your thumb. Now, what I ran into is I would hit them and nothing would happen. I'd have to get out and jiggle this, and finally it would come loose. And what you've got is, it's hard to see. See that rubber thing right there? You need to look at it, and it needs to be pushing. See how it's pushing against the glass? It's flattened out. It's really pointed. So you see how it's flat? This one was flat. See how it's flat? And it was doing fine on this side. It would release, but when I would try to shut the door, now you just pop them. Like, it's easier to do it with 2 hands, but now I can do it with 1 hand and shut. So I greased, just wiped a little grease right here, and then down this rail right here, the rail it travels right here. I greased that, and these right here. When I looked, these were backed off, and you could stick, you know, a screwdriver in between that bracket and that rubber grommet and that one. And what that does is, when you're traveling, I thought it was a little rattly. When you're traveling, it holds it in place for you. This is what I was talking about. See this tip right here? It's kind of rounded, and when you when you shut it, the glass pushes against it. Well, when you hit the release button, it's got like a little down pressure to pop it loose from right here. And here's some brackets. They're kind of beveled. That rubber, same rubber grommet here, when you bring the glass back, sits in that also. Here's that other. All you do is take a 14mm and break that loose, and that's a weld nut up top, and you just thread this down. And you want to see like a, I'm going to say, look like a dime pushed against that glass. And you can see how much better, you know, everything. You can work it with one hand if you got it right. Right there, you see it. Right there. So here's that rail. You can see just the slightest little film. All I done was took some on a rag and just barely wiped it, because if you do too much when you're bush hogging and working, this side's a little heavier, but when you're working and stuff, it just attracts a bunch of dust, and you seem like you always touch grease. No matter where you put it, you touch grease. Today's been one of those days that when you're doing a business, you need to really think about. Like, I bush hogged for 3 days, and now I've spent about 4 hours or 5 at the shop taking panels off, blowing filters out, cleaning and vacuuming the machine. I mean, if you want to take care of the machine, this machine is brand new, has 100 hours on it. So, I mean, I don't want to have it full of a fire starter and kindling, and then go and be working somewhere and the machine burned down. You know, you could have fire extinguisher, but once you see it's burning, it's probably already burnt $10,000 worth of damage unless you catch it quicker. I would take into account when you're pricing jobs, and that's why my bush hog rate is higher than my normal daily rate. I have a daily rate to work 8 hours, and then I have an extra added to that when I'm running this machine. I run a tank of fuel out at about 7.5, 8 hours. I mean, I'm running with a light on to try to get my 8 hours. Running a 72-inch brush cutter, Rut Manufacturing, cutting pretty good material. That is loading it up. Now, if I was cutting, you know, briars and stuff like that, you know, weeds, it would probably, in small stuff, 1 to 2 inches, it would probably, you know, run about 10 hours on a tank of fuel. But it takes about $100 or close to fill it up, and then you're gonna run that out in a day. So that's $100 automatically. Then if you pay yourself something, then if you know, count some of this hauling and all this taking it apart and cleaning it up and greasing it, I still have to sharpen the blades and stuff on mine. So if you count all that, I just be mindful when you're pricing jobs.